Time is finally come, everyone. I'm finally in my Nickelodeon phase. Do not cry for me. After obsessing over Disney and CN for the last 2 years, I'm finally completing the trilogy by watching all the Nickelodeon shows. Don't worry, I won't abandon talking about Disney and CN, especially since there's anniversaries for 2 certain shows coming up. But for now, it's Nick time. Problem is there's nothing to discuss for Nick, since they axe all their shows after a season. I mean, there's Avatar, which I finally found something after 3 years, and SpongeBob, which we talked about twice. That's right, twice, no other times. But besides that, there's not much to say about these shows that haven't already been said. To be fair, I am pretty early in the watch through though. I could find something else to discuss. But for now, I don't know, I promised this video like a year ago. Here's the funny ghost guy. Danny Phantom is the Schrodinger's cat of popularity. Depending on who you ask, it's either a cult classic or Nick's most overrated show. You know, looking back, there was a lot of original superhero cartoons back in the early 2000s, but of all of them, this was definitely my favorite as a kid. Danny Phantom wasn't a show I was obsessed with like Foster's, but it was definitely my favorite Nick show after SpongeBob and Fairy Odd Parents. Which is its creator? Yeah, ghost elephant in the room. Show creator Butch Hartman is an awful person. Between lying about a streaming service, to refusing to pay his own artist, to claiming to be able to cure autism, to whatever the frick Bunch and the Beast is, was not even in the top 3 worst Nick creators. Butch the dick, and everyone knows it. After this, I will not mention any of his controversies, because he's been discussed to death. I'm going to be breaking down this show on its own merits. No influence from Butch. But thanks to him, and some other factors, like a lot of shows I cover, people have been turned on Danny Phantom, and tend to claim it's not as good as we remember. But I really like this show. Is it really so awful? Well, dye your hair white, and jump into the ghost zone, as we try to answer that question. Well, I always start with characters. Makes no sense to break the tradition. Just like every single other cartoon that has been and ever will be made, Danny Phantom focuses on a trio of friends. Danny, Sam, and Tucker. You'll never frickin' guess it, but Danny's the main character. Honestly, his character I don't think gets enough credit. Danny's one of my favorite cartoon protagonists. He's funny, he's got a bit of a jerk side, but he never goes too far, unlike his friends, but that's for later. Honestly, the show manages something that's really hard to do. They made their main character a hecking nerd while not making me want to punch him and steal lunch money, while also making him cool, but still also make me say, oh yeah, this dude's a loser. You know how hard it is to make your main character a loser? Not too much of one. I can't even manage that in my own life, because I'm not a loser at all. I make videos on YouTube and no one watches them. Biggest loser there is. Oh yeah, and I guess he's a ghost too. That's kind of important. Oh frick, I didn't explain the deep emotional lore of this 2-decade-old children's cartoon, did I? Well, the theme song, which is ingrained in my heart and my soul, explains it pretty well. Yo, Danny Phantom was just 14 when his parents built a very strange machine, which, when you think about it, they literally made a machine that could access what was basically the underworld. I know they don't know it, but how did Danny never capitalize on it? Why is there running gag that his parents are crazy, when, it's common knowledge that there's a ghost in the town? I know Danny handles them, but, still, people act as if they're insane, but they know there's ghosts. What's up with that? So anyways, because cartoons murder logic worse than I murder children, Danny gets the ability to swap from ghost to human. And now he has to fight ghosts using his parents' tech without them knowing. Yeah, so Danny's a really fun main character. One of my personal favorite characters in Nickelodeon. Why are all his friends horrible people? Okay, that's a joke. I like Sam and Tucker, but opinions can be split on these two, and while I like them, I won't argue with anyone who doesn't. Tucker's a nerd. With Danny, they still manage to make him cool, but Tucker is the most stereotypical nerd of all time. Every second he's on screen, I just want to shove him into a locker. Literally, every line he says is either about liking tech or wanting a girlfriend. I don't think he's funny though, and while he can occasionally be a dick, it never goes too far, and is usually called out for it. Usually. Sam is Danny's girlfriend. They have this whole annoying, oh, will they get together? Who knows? Garbage. It's super obvious they're gonna get together. On her own though, I like Sam. She plays the straight man to the boys, while still being super extra quirky that sends her to read. She's a goth activist, which really made me realize that this show came out in the early 2000s, because there are so many jokes about how no one likes her since she's goth, which really counters the last 8 years or so of being on the internet. People literally break the Geneva Conventions for a goth girl. But yeah, I poke fun at her when her activism goes too far, while still remaining her snarky side, and I don't know, I just like her. She could have been easily hateable honestly, or even useless, but they managed to make her the heart of the team and the biggest support for Danny. Usually. I'll save the ghosts for a later segment, but I guess I can't pick some of the other notable humans. Meg and Jack are fun parents, supportive but also funny, which says a lot since outside of Rugrats, most Nick parents pick one or the other. Jack is definitely the weaker of the two. The show really wants to hammer in that he's an idiot, because he's a father on a Nick show, and they talk about how he's a loser and insane, and the fact that he never puts together that Vlad hates him, despite him making it very clear that he does, is pretty idiotic. But as I said earlier, he's invented several working devices that can fight ghosts. And, you know, the portal to another dimension. Even the final episode, when he finally finds out Danny's secret and that Vladimir hates him, he's still treated like an idiot. But like, come on. He's the first of many fumbles or missed potentials that I've noticed. Maddie, on the other hand, is treated much better. She's honestly one of the best mothers in Nick. The internet definitely likes her, but I think that's for other reasons. I like that she figures out early on that Vlad has an obsessive crush with her, and she's appropriately disgusted by it. I like having Jack be obsessed with him. This adds a lot to the dynamic, and I love that every single time they're on screen together, after she finds out, she makes it very clear how much she wants to strangle him. They also have their daughter Jazz. She started as a standard, smart, successful older sister, and kind of a brat, but early on she figures out Danny's secret. And after that, she constantly tries to help without letting Danny know that she knows. I really like this twist. It really helps her out as a character become nicer and more active in the story, and she's much more supportive. It's great to see an older sister that's just genuinely supportive and nice, instead of ignoring that you exist, taking 8 months to watch one singular video that you've been asking them to watch. I should see a therapist. Also, she's always the same person as Tails, and I am physically incapable of unhearing it.
Harvard, Yale, and Stanford, and I can't make up my mind.
Valerie Gray is Danny's girlfriend, except obviously no, we know they're never gonna happen. She's also a ghost hunter though. You know, I'm slowly realizing that like every character in this show has a secret side. Yeah, she's also kind of missed potential. I'll touch on that later on, but for the episodes she appears in, I like her. There's a trio of bullies as well. I don't have much to say about Quan and Paula, besides them just being knockoffs of Spider-Man characters. I mean, to be fair, you would say that about literally anyone in the show. It was just Spider-Man if half the characters cosplayed Uncle Ben. But Dash, I usually hate bully characters, but I like him. He's funny. I wish my bully from middle school was as funny. That's why I tolerated getting beaten up several times, constantly mocked, and told to kill myself. And the second I stand up for myself, my teachers claim that I'm the problem. Again, therapist. Then there's the greatest, most epicest character of all time. The man, the myth, the Chad, Mr. Lancer. This dude is amazing. Instead of swearing, he says his name is a classic literature. He's a good mix of a reasonable teacher and a lovely cruel one. And he's voiced by Ron Perlman. I just really enjoy imagining the Lich or Slade saying these lines.
Chicken soup for the soul!
There's actually a pretty popular theory that he knows Danny is a ghost boy, which granted isn't hard to deduce. His first name is literally the exact same in both forms, and they look exactly the same minus hair color, so mental glasses are better at hiding his identity. But his lines are usually extremely specific against Danny, saying that he knows things like he can turn invisible, or that he's just always there whenever Danny turns back to human. Basically, he's hard on him as a way to toughen him up for the world around him, both alive and dead. Speaking of dead people, alright, let's get this out of the way now. It's been stated that the ghosts in the show aren't dead people, but are just a type of monster that occasionally make up stories that just say they were once alive. That's stupid, and dumb, and bad. A lot of the characters are directly confirmed to once be alive, like via Ember's, Desiree's, and Dorothea's backstories. Oh, but those are just made up, right? Maybe. But we literally see the corpses of these animals. Hotep Ra needs to be revived, and like you gotta be dead to be revived. Jerry King has a picture of his living self. Yeah, they were alive. Maybe not everyone. I don't want to imagine what this freaker looked like as a human, but yeah. Also, I can't talk about every ghost, but I'll talk about most of the big ones. If I missed some here, I'll have a favorite episode segment and I'll probably talk about them there. So anyways, there's a frick ton of ghosts in Danny Phantom. It's almost like the main selling point of the show. Might as well start with the main villain, Vlad Plasmius, aka Vlad Masters. Yeah, he's a pretty great villain. He's always a step ahead, he's funny, and he's the most evil, vile monster you can imagine. A Packers fan. You know, that has the weirdest character evolution. He starts as a major threat, like when you see him in the episode, you know things are going to go down. But then in later seasons, he simultaneously becomes more of a joke, and also simultaneously becomes a more active threat. Basically, he becomes the mayor, which makes him a more active antagonist. But unlike early episodes, where every time he appears, it marks a major change in the show, now if he appears, you know Danny's just going to clown him. Still, I think Vlad's pretty cool, and one of the show's strongest villains. Skulker is the closest to the leader of the ghosts. Every time all the ghosts team up, you can guarantee he'll be the face of them. His voice changed halfway through. Early on it was Matthew Patrick, not that one. But later on, he was replaced by Kevin Mike Richardson for some reason. The first voice is more distinct, while the second is more fitting. Listen, they made a mistake making this guy the main ghost. Because in his first appearance, it's revealed that he's just a silly little guy in a suit. Now whenever I see him popping back up, trying to act cool and boss on the other ghosts, try to kill Danny, I just remember that he looks like a two-eyed Mike Wazowski. Still, I think he's a fun antagonist for what he is. Box Ghost is the most pathetic thing since my dating life. He's a ghost that likes boxes. That's his entire life story. He's perfect. There actually was an episode where he becomes a legit evil villain, but still. I don't think I can physically touch this guy, but I feel like my mere presence would give him a wedgie. Ember McLean. I swear, she's the only reason people remember this show. Like, she's a great villain. I'll get more into that in the episode segment. But like, my god, why are people on the internet so unbelievably down bad for her? It's one of the only 4 times I hear people talking about the show. Their 3 are being horny and mean for these 3. You know, this applies to so many cartoons where the only reason people talk about them is just because cartoon women. Is this a fate of animation? Just doomed to become forgotten unless they have waifus? Just a sad, slow, painful death unless people are horny? Is this really what life has become? I guess so, I don't know. Nickelodeon Technus is definitely my favorite of the villains. Dude's just so over the top and insane, but every time a new obstacle is thrown at him, he just adapts and overcomes it, and uses it to his advantage. Plus he's had 2 designs, and both are great. And despite not being the main villain, or ringleader, he was given special treatment back in the day when the show was relevant. He was in a Nicktoons game as a playable character, and was even the final boss of a Danny Phantom Flash game. Vlad was only the 2nd boss. Bro's more important than the main villain. Mad respect. I do ask though, his voice is clearly an impression of Gilbert Godfrey, which makes me ask, why didn't they just get him to voice Technus? He voiced a character in Fair Outparents, so like, he should be attainable for this. Still, I love Technus. Make him a Tumblr sexy man. He deserves it. But as I said, this is about ghosts, not villains. And there are some good ghosts. There's Pandora and the previously mentioned Dorothea, but the big 3 are Clockwork, Danielle Phantom, and Frostbite. Clockwork is just so cool. I love that he's constantly changing ages whenever he's on screen, which makes sense for a time deity. While he's a good guy, he also kind of manipulates the very timeline and tests Danny in various ways. I don't know, he's just cool. Danielle is the go-to example for wasted potential in the show. A female clone of Danny, who starts as sort of Vlad's daughter, before wising up and going on her own. In a later episode, she tries to branch out on her own. Valerie intercepts her, and now Danny has to convince her to not murder his kind of sister. Wow, that's great! It really sets up Danielle to be her own character. And now she can either follow Danny's footsteps, or fall back to after crime. Heck, Valerie grows to care for her. Maybe she'll be like a little sister to her, or just her friend, and a way to get her to stop hunting ghosts, or listen to the second to last episode. Great. Then there's Frostbite. Opinions are mixed on him, which mostly comes from him being from season 3, but I really like the guy. I love the grand, big way he speaks and acts. Ice power is really fun. I had to fight every bone in my body to not say cool. It's cool to see an explanation of Danny's ghost sense. His design is great. Yeah, I really like Frostbite. The local top 2 in that one Flash game. You know, I keep mentioning specific episodes. That's how it's some of my favorites. So I recently made a video on my favorite Cartoon Network episodes. I'm currently planning out my favorite Disney episode list, and eventually I will make one for Nickelodeon. So I will not tell you which of these is my favorite, but hey, that says they'll go with some of my favorites. I will not tell you which one is my favorite, but these are just some ones that I like, and this is in release order. Mystery Meat is the first episode of the show, and it starts off on a good foot. Sets up the characters very well. Lunch Lady Ghost is fun starter villain too. Yeah, it's just a good first episode. One of a kind is Skulker's first appearance, and the only one where I could take him seriously as a threat. I like the traps he lays out, and how Danny can just intentionally lazy get around them. Also Funny Monkey. Attack of the Killer Garage Sale is Technus' first appearance. Spoiler alert, if he's the main villain of an episode, it's gonna be on here. Danny finds himself as one of the cool kids, and that strains his relationship with his friends. It's a nice story that shows how close the bond of the 3 really is, but I don't care about that. The living embodiment of Terminally Online is here. Bitter Reunions is a Vlad episode, and like Technus, expect a lot of those until season 3 overuses him. This is a great introduction to Vlad, setting up why he hates Fentons, and while he suffers villain decay later on. This episode did great with making him always seem one step ahead, while giving us the big hook for the rest of their meetings. They both know each other's secrets, but they can't reveal it since the other one will reveal their secret. Fanning the Flames is the Ember episode. It's super accurate to real life. Ember appears, then literally everyone starts simping for her. Jokes aside, this is when she sings the song Remember, which is great. Not only is it really catchy, but the lyrics paint a clear picture of her backstory, where she was once dating a guy who ended up not showing up to their dates, and she eventually died in a house fire. Creature of the Year reveals that Metro Lancer is even more based than you could even possibly imagine, as he is an epic gamer man. Less importantly is a seemingly required Character Enters a Game episode that every 2000 cartoon had, where everyone enters a video game to battle Technus, who has no idea what a game is, but he then just immediately takes it over because you can't stop this man. He will frick your wife, and you shall thank him. Fright Night was my favorite episode as a kid. It's the Halloween episode, where Danny and Dash are both challenged to make the scariest haunted house ever. To achieve this, Danny finds a sword that has the power to make things scary, but also unleashes the Fright Night, who's coming for Danny. I like this episode because 1, Fright Night is just so raw, and 2, the visuals in this episode are among the show's best and most creative, dark, and vibrant. Could have gone without the ending though, giving Danny the Bart Simpson special. 13 is the most garbage episode of all time. It's called 13, it's about a character named Johnny 13, and you know what episode number it is? 14. You were right there. How do you frick it up that much? It was a gift wrapped for you. I'm nuking all of Nickelodeon. It doesn't include the funny lobster man. And I shall personally find Butch. I will call him a doo-doo head. Maternal instincts gives us these mutant animals that horrified kid me. This really made me love Maddie a lot. She's such a great mom, Danny, here. And again, I like that she calls out Vlad for being insane. Vlad continues to be a great villain. From setting this all up to constantly trying to manipulate both of them. Just an overall fantastic episode. Life Lessons is the obligatory two people hate each other, let's handcuff them episode that seemed to die out, but was once everywhere. Ghost Danny and Valerie are cuffed together by Skulker. The two have to survive each other and him. Oh, and also for school, they're given a sack of flour to watch over as a child, and they have to make sure Skulker doesn't destroy it either, since they both want a good grade. Personally, I think Tucker has the best idea on how to treat your child. Eat them. Memory Bank is one of the few really good episodes for Danny and Sam's relationship, and the best episode for Sam in general. Sam wishes for a world without Danny Phantom, causing everyone to forget him besides her, and stopping her friendship with Danny, all thanks to Desiree. Now Sam needs to set things right all by herself. Also notable that Danny gets a logo on his shirt now, which is a request from Nick themselves. Pirate Radio has the return of Ember, plus a new villain named Youngblood, a pirate kid. They've kidnapped all the adults, and now Danny has to work double duty as his human self to get the kids to team up and rescue them, while also as his ghost form to fight Ember and Youngblood. Ending kinda stinky though. Oh, and Youngblood is voiced by Taylor Lautner. Not today. Not ever. Identity Crisis tackles an obvious episode topic. Danny splits his human and ghost halves. Human Danny is a lot of fun since he's a lot goofier than normal Danny, but the two must work together to fight a ghost. That being Technus, the one and only, praise be, praise be. The Fight for Christmas. Just watch this video, man. This one's already freaking long. Secret Weapons has Jazz, finally part of the team, after the eventual ultimate enemy. Oh yeah, I'm including movies, or movies, not episodes. At the end of the video, I'll talk about them. Yeah, cool, epic, great, based. So now she's an active help to Danny. She sucks at it. After Danny snaps at her, she decides to work for Vlad. So it's a Vlad episode and a Jazz one. And even after working for Danny's arch enemy, she's still more supportive than my sister. Flirting with Disaster is actually kind of a mid episode. I mean, it's focusing on romance, which as I hinted at, isn't this show's strong suit, especially when it's Danny and Val. This episode really isn't that good. Just kidding! Titus is back! To have sexual intercourse with your mother. And he has a new design, I should mention that earlier, but frick you, and he basically ruins Danny's love life. That's right, that's based. No one deserves love. The actual goat of a ghost. Infinite Realms is the introduction of Frostbite. And the Infomap, a map that takes you anywhere in the Ghost Zone. Again, I really love Frostbite, so his introduction is a lot of fun. And the Infomap gives us a lot of cool new scenarios, especially once the Vlad comes in. Girls Night Out is an idea I'm surprised they didn't touch on until now. After Penelope, Kitty, and Ember break up with their boyfriends, which, like, side note, Ember is dating Skulker? How? Why? Anyways, the three decide to give us the future liberals want, eliminating all men from the town. Now Jazz, Maddie, and Sam have to work together to reverse it and stop the three. We surprisingly rarely see Maddie interact with Jazz and Sam, so this was a necessary episode. And seeing most of the reasons you'll even remember this show altogether probably made some sicko happy. And the way they take out the Ghost Girls is very clever. Oh, and actually, Danny didn't get erased like the rest of the town, since he was doing something more important than women. He was fishing. Forever Phantom brings in a new ghost named Morpho, a shapeshifter. So something you gotta know about me is that I love shapeshifting. It's my favorite superpower. He loves pranking and mischief, and realizes that he found the perfect form to impersonate here in town. Unfortunately, Technus was busy, so he settled for Danny, but the two slowly start losing their powers, and must work together to stop it. Urban Jungle is one I have extremely fond memories as a kid. A lot comes in the Flash game based on the episode, which was a lot of fun, but it's also the episode with Endergrowth, my favorite one-off villain, from his design being voiced by Mark Hamill, to having a genuine point about how badly people treat plants, while also attempting to wipe out all of humanity. Based. The Corporate Sam is really cool, Frostbite returns and helps Danny with his ice powers, the end fight is amazing, there's a nice little message about caring about the environment, that isn't too blatant. Yeah, I like this episode. Finally, Claws of the Wild. The gang go on a camping trip and slowly get picked off one by one, and Danny and Sam need to find out what's up. Also Wolf. His name is uncreative, but he's pretty fun. Anyways, the best episode is the one where an iguana attacks Tucker for no real reason, and is literally never brought up again. That iguana can kill the devil. Now for the actual hacking review part of the review. I really love Danny Phantom. It's funny, the fight scenes are some of the best animated parts in Nick's history. The title cards are really creative and dynamic, and fit the comic vibe amazingly, and the characters are some of the most memorable in Nick's history. But as you probably noticed throughout this review, there's a lot of hang-ups to the show, and it's very unfortunately not as good as I remembered. Not even close to bad enough to not recommend, but the cracks are very obvious. Characters can very frequently be uncharacteristically rude or stupid, Tucker and Jack being some of the most glaring. The romance between Sam and Danny, while occasionally leading to some cute moments, is mostly just an extremely dragged out plotline that tends to be extremely repetitive and predictable. Episodes tend to feel rushed, especially in regards to their endings. It's extremely flawed, and you don't need to look hard to find the problems. But honestly, as flawed as it is, I still really enjoyed it. I think the good outweighs the bad. I'm pretty sure I just unintentionally copied and pasted my final thoughts from the Fosters video. You can clearly tell that there's some real effort here from all parties, even if it's occasionally misguided. Season 3 is a big example of this. Most of the fanbase hates Season 3, which makes sense, as when co-creator Steve Marvel left, leaving only Butch at the helm. It's when the ghosts aren't dead humans thing gets really enforced, as all the new ghosts in this season are extremely out there. But as evidenced by the amount of episodes I included in my favorite list, I think there's a lot of good here, like a deeper look in all these characters and their abilities. All of them more focused on side characters like Danielle and great new ones like Frostbite. Granted, the flaws are especially noticeable here, even more so than other seasons, but hey, they weren't enough to ruin it then, they aren't enough to ruin it now. I also put it up as one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows. Whether it's because it's that good, or because Nick's cartoons are largely mediocre, is something I'll answer in a later video. Like the titular character, the show is only half dead. The other half is full life, which means he'll eventually die. Which, thanks to some backstage meddling from Nick, it eventually did. Rip Bozo. Usually in these reviews, I like to end these off with a special bonus segment. It could be looking at something that's probably intentional, could be diving into an obscure fact, or it could be what I usually do, and we'll do here, look at the spin-off material. For this show, there's the short that crossed over all of Butch's shows. It's a cute little crossover. I'm glad that all the actors got to reprise their roles, though I'm a little surprised I never made a joke that both Sam and Kitty are voiced by Grey Griffin. I also kind of wish there was more to this. It's just kind of a glorified ad for Bunchen as a beast. Give me an actual crossover. Why weren't these three in it at all? Is it because their combined raw sexual power is just too much for one short to dare include them all together? The big thing, though, is the 4 TV movies that came out during the course of the show. Going in release order, there's Rainstorm, Ultimate Enemy, Reality Trip, and Phantom Planet. Rainstorm introduces the King of the Ghosts, Pariah Dark. It's a great episode, but also one I don't have much to say about. I do like seeing all the ghosts haunting other places, plus this is the first time they all join together to fight someone other than Danny, so that's pretty great. Ultimate Enemy is usually considered the best episode of the series. Again, it's not an episode, you're all wrong, and I'm coming tomorrow to accept your left arm as payment. No, but jokes aside, it's super easy to see why this is so beloved. Danny must fight his strongest opponent yet, himself from a future where he becomes evil. Everything about this episode is fantastic. Jazz fully becomes a member of the crew. This is Clockwork's introduction, and I already went over how great he is. I love the looks of the older versions of the ghosts, along with how Dark Danny fricked them up so badly. Skulker and Technus fuse to become one, and are called Skulltech. This is the best ship, they even come pre-built with a ship name. And of course, there's Dark Danny himself. The main reason this film is so great. He's a fantastic main villain. He's by far the darkest villain in the show. He rules his dimension by doing all the murder. He's by far the darkest villain in the show. I already said that. He goes back in time to basically make sure he keeps his reign. And he's proof there are in fact some male characters who can be as obnoxiously simped for as female ones. Oh, and during his introduction, when it shows that he killed his human self, it shows him baring his fangs and lashing his tongue out. So let's just assume he just ate human Danny. I love eating children. If it counted, I honestly think Reality Trip might be my favorite episode. Freak Show, an evil remaster from an earlier episode, gets his hands on what's basically the Infinity Gauntlet. However, the gems get lost across the world. Freak Show forces Danny and crew to retrieve them by kidnapping their families. And he also reveals to the world that Danny is the Ghost Boy. Now, Danny has a race against the clock and ghost hunters to find the gem before Freak Show kills his family or he gets captured. Freak Show is a great villain. It's one of the most intense episodes of the series. It's just a great episode. I do have 2 little problems with the ending though. For one, Danny erases the minds of everyone who knows his secret. And while I get most of them, why did he erase his parents? They fully accepted his ghost side, and the finale confirms they'll still accept him. So like, why not have your own parents help back you up in your life, and also have them not constantly try to kill you? The other problem is that, while I like the ending for the most part, it's just a complete copy of the ending of Aladdin. The main character is tortured by the main villain, who's a normal guy who has magic powers, and uses them to force all his friends to go through an ironic torture. But the hero tricks the main villain to become a magical creature due to his desire to become all-powerful and out of envy of that specific species, which, while they briefly become that, they have been immediately trapped in a container only this species can be. Disney, you know what to do. Then there's the finale movie, Phantom Planet. Like a lot of Season 3, it's very divisive, but again, I really like season 3, so I obviously gotta say, Phantom Planet is awful. It is the worst freaking episode of the entire show. Every single thing you could do is wrong. Let's violently assassinate all the character growth these guys have gone through. And I'm calm, I'm beautiful. Let's talk about this. The plot of Phantom Planet is great on paper. A meteor is hurling towards Earth. Vlad finally comes out, I'm so proud of him, and tells everyone that he's half ghost, and he holds the planet for ransom unless he gets complete control of the world. That doesn't work out, so Danny needs to team up with the ghosts to save Earth. Good idea! I like Vlad finally revealing that he's half ghost, instead of telling Jack he hates him. Complete was Jack finally turning on him. But when Vlad tries to stop the meteor, he reveals it's made out of actinium, basically ghost kryptonite. That's cool. One question though. Why was this never brought up in the actual show? You can't just introduce something like this in the literal final episode. Don't you think a ghost hunter would want to get his hands on something like this? Oh, maybe he didn't know about it. Sure, that's possible. But Vlad clearly did. He especially wants to kill Danny. So, like, why didn't he ever get some? Yeah, he's half ghost too, but like, again, half ghost. Also, bro's rich. He can just hire someone else to harvest it. Okay, but whatever, that's stupid. But nowhere near the worst problem. Dad hires a crew to go around and stop ghosts before Danny. They do a great job at it, and this causes Danny to find a way to remove his ghost powers and become human. I'm fine with this. So the episodes hint that he just wants a normal life. What I'm not okay with is his own friends constantly failing him for just wanting to be normal again. Danny was completely in his right to do this. His house is being attacked since they're detecting that he's holding a ghost, and he values his family over his powers. How on earth are we supposed to sympathize with Sam, Jazz, and Tucker? Heck, there's far less ghosts thanks to the hunters. The show does clearly want us to side with Danny's friends, but I'm sorry, I just can't see why you would. Since that's a massive chunk of the episode, it really drags it down. But okay, through a very contrived way, Danny gets his powers back. I don't really get it, he gets blasted by ghosts, and I'm like, recharges him. They're rebuilding the portal, why don't they just use that? But whatever. Danny finds out that Ghost Stone would be destroyed if Earth is, so he convinces the ghost to join him to make a planet casual. That's actually really cool. Almost every ghost reappears here, even Pariah Dark, but it treats it as if every ghost was always Danny's enemy and hangs out in the Ghost Zone. But no, ones like Daniel and Frostbite, who both appear in this episode, don't. Also, there's just so many errors here. Dead characters are here. Some characters change position. There's 2 lunch ladies. There's 3 technices. The mistake is there should be more. Spectre changes clothes. Freak Show is here despite being human. It's a mess. But it works, and Danny reveals his secret to his parents. Valerie, his ex-girlfriend and ghost hunter, isn't shown finding this out. Neither are the bullies who idolize the ghost form. Great. And whoa, shock of all shocks. Sam and Danny get together. Who could have seen that coming? It should have been Danny and Tucker. So yeah, that sucks. There's definitely good ideas here. They really fricked up the execution. And this also really fricks up my perception of Jazz, Sam, and Tucker up. This makes them seem really self-centered. Oh, and Vlad dies. So as I make this video, the graphic novel that's coming out is not out yet, based on the series. But I'm really excited for it. As mixed as this franchise is, I still love it. And I'm excited for anything else that comes from it. I'm really glad to see that this franchise is not going ghost. Okay, yeah, I just had to throw one in there. I also see myself out. I see the gates of the underworld are opening up. I don't want to keep them waiting, you know, that one FNAF. Oh, bye. See ya, have a good life now.
It will drive you to your doom!